All right, this is my third attempt at doing a voiceover for one of these videos, or even using iMovies to edit a video or make a video, for that matter. I've been doing these daily drawings, trying to keep them to 20 minutes, but been going over. And I was doing time lapses for them, but I kind of fell off doing time lapses for some of them. So I'm just compiling a video for like the week's worth, a little more than a week, I guess. That first character, which I didn't have a time lapse for, was Gideon, and that was 19. And then this is 20, the time traveler. I do have a time lapse for it. Gideon is from It Will Hurt, and the time traveler appears in a book that came out last year called Proxima Centauri. I try to keep this one a little monochromatic for the most part, and the coloring went pretty fast at first, but then I started to get kind of caught up in doing all those spheres and little tendrils coming out of his head. And initially I wasn't going to color those. I was just going to color the figure to save time, but then I don't know, I got compulsive, or just kind of I got inspired, I should say, to paint. I'm painting with a Raphael 8404 brush. Here's the finish, which I do. Sometimes I do inking with, and sometimes I ink with a pen. Just kind of depends on my mood. This is a fox that I had drawn in It Will All Hurt, a book that I did. And a rat. The rat's name is Stinky Simon. He actually has like speaking parts and stuff, but the fox doesn't really say anything. He just kind of is in a couple scenes walking around. He's not really a character even. He's just sort of like window dressing, I guess. But I liked the image and It Will Hurt, and I decided to do one for a daily drawing. And this is the finish right here. Yep. And that was drawing 21. And the next one, which I don't have a time lapse for, is a character called Sep. And basically he just appeared in a one-page story that I did with Rick Remender for the Thought Bubble anthology. And the story was called Nancy Boy, and I just always thought of his character's name as being Sep, but it's not really mentioned. And this is another character that I created called, actually I don't have a name for her, but she's just like a mouse girl. And a story that I'm going to do called Robot Todd, which hasn't come out yet, or haven't even started on it yet. This guy is named Hollis, and he's one of my favorite characters. He features primarily in a book I did called The Wrenchies that came out in 2014 from First Second. And yeah, here you can see I'm inking with one of those Faber-Castell Pitt pens. Usually use small or extra small. And I try to keep the lines to a minimum when I know I'm going to color something. But this is out of focus. I think I had my arm in front of the camera when I was setting it up and hit record, and it kind of focused on my forearm instead of on the drawing. So apologize that this section is a little blurry, but I use the same brushes to paint with that I used to ink with if I'm inking with a brush. Raphael 8404. And here's the finish. Hall's holding the Wrenchies comic and amulet. Next one is Diamond Day. Here's the sketch, and she's the leader of the Wrenchies in the Wrenchies comic. The grown-up Wrenchies. There's a group of kids that call themselves the Wrenchies that live in this post-apocalyptic world, and she's like kind of more from our time and gets transported into the future. But here you can kind of see I'm inking and coloring, you should say, even though it's kind of monochromatic. I'm using watered down ink for the grays, and I'm just doing it kind of simultaneously. It's not normally the way I work, but I was kind of getting experimental, I guess. And here I'm just signing my name with a brush, and I thought I would just do something and do it in real time, just for fun. And then I messed up right here. I started to write 210 for whatever reason. So I had to fuss with it a little bit to get it to look right. But here's the finish of it, of Diamond Day, getting ready for battle. Here's a sketch of the bad guys from a lot of my stories, and they're called the Shadows Men. I think they first popped up in the Wrenchies as major villains. And here's another guy. He's in Popgun War, and his name is Mr. Grimshaw. And I also have him in It Will All Hurt and a couple other things that I do. He just kind of appears randomly here and there. And here I'm inking this with a brush. And I don't have a time-lapse of the color version for some reason. I guess I just didn't feel like doing it, or maybe it just didn't, I don't know. I forgot or something. But here's the finish version. And it's kind of hard for me to get an even tones with the paper that I was using, so I used gouache mostly on that one. And here's another guy from Popgun War called Ben Abel. And I put in these little Pinocchio bots in both these pictures because it kind of has something to do with the story. So I decided on the next day to do a solo Pinocchio bot, or whatever I call them. But yeah, it's watercolor and gouache. And here's a guy that I created for a series called Prophet. Brandon Graham came up with the name. His name is Messiah Kind. And I did this one with colored pencil. And I was traveling, so I didn't do time lapses of these. And this is another guy from Prophet, Captain Quest. And it's kind of these weird dudes that I drew, and Brandon Graham named them. Came up with these interesting names. And this is a character from Popgun War called Rachel, and I'm back on, she's watercolored, and I think I might have those out of order, actually, because this guy's colored pencil as well, and his name is Blam Dabbit. And then this is back to watercolor, and again, I was traveling, so I couldn't scan it. I just took a picture of it, but that guy's name is Leon Fireglove. And here's the latest one. This is a character called Virgil, and he appears in the Wrenchies in a couple pages, and he has a few talking lines and pages in my book that came out last year, Proxima Centauri. And I decided not to color this one. I just wanted to keep this to 20 minutes, so I just inked it with one of these Faber-Castell Pitt pens. And here's the finish. And that's the last guy, so thanks a lot.